Te midde van 'n treurende volk het dit my roeping geword om die pligte as eerste minister van die Unie van Suid-Afrika op my te neem. 'n Geliefde en bekwame voorganger het in die tuig heen gegaan. Sy taak moet ander nou verder voer. Dit is my vaste voorneme om sy voetspore en ook die van sy geëerde voorganger te druk. Die doelstellings waarop hulle handelinge gerig was, is ook my doelstellings. Want dit is die koers wat die kiesers van Suid-Afrika ons opgedra het om te volg. As gelowige regerders van 'n godsdienstige land, moet ons beklemtoon dat ons krag en leiding in die toekoms, soos in die verlede, sal soek by hom wat die lotgevalle van nasies beheer. Goeie samewerking tussen eensdenkendes ter bereiking van die gesamentlike ideale op staatkundige gebied is noodsaaklik en gelukkig weer eens verseker. Die krag wat van hierdie eenheid uitgaan, moet blywende waarde hê. Terselfdertyd sal andersdenkendes se reg om uiting te gee aan hul oortuigings steeds beskerm word. In die reëling van verhoudings tussen die Unie en state en gebiede van Afrika sal alle leiers as verstandige en verantwoordelike mense besef dat daar groot verskille tussen hulle lande bestaan, onder meer wat ras en lewenswyse betref. Dit sal die regering se strewe wees om middels tot samewerking te vind wat rekening sal hou met die omstandighede en moeilikhede van die verskillende gebiede.
Our policy is one which is called by an Afrikaans word apartheid. And I'm afraid that has been misunderstood so often. It could just as easily, and perhaps much better, be described as a policy of good neighborliness, accepting that there are differences between people. But while these differences exist, and you have to acknowledge them, at the same time, you can live together, aid one another, but that it can best be done when you act as good neighbors always do.
South Africa has made the expected choice, to be a republic. Indeed, despite lively opposition, especially in Johannesburg, it was the inevitable choice. So thoroughly did the government of Dr. Verwoerd organize the campaign, while allowing only white people to vote in the referendum. Verwoerd declared before polling day that if he only had a majority of one, the Union would become a republic. Women polled in strength while the men were at work. By no means did Dr. Verwoerd have it all his own way. For days in Joburg and all places of pro-British leaning, the opposition was strong. Sir de Villiers Grant vigorously fought the Republican idea. He has opposed the Premier in Parliament. Now he stumped the country with great success wherever the majority were of British blood. But nothing less than a republic would satisfy the Dutch-descended Afrikaners, who bitterly resent the defeat of their forebears, the Boers.
This year, the Rand Easter show at Johannesburg, at which many nations were exhibiting, was on a larger scale than usual. It marked the 50th year of the Union of South Africa. The Prime Minister, Dr. Verwoerd, was making his first public appearance since the state of emergency had been declared.
We are prepared to cooperate with every state in the world, white or black.
It was after his speech that the attempt on his life was made. Dr. Verwoerd falls, shot in the face at point-blank range. All around him are stunned. His wife's there trying to help. Somebody hurls the first thing to hand at the assailant, whose name is later given as David Pratt. The stricken man, bleeding profusely, is gravely hurt, as news of the shocking event goes out to the world.
The Republic is the only sure and stable friend that the Western nations have in Africa. We are here to stay, and we are here to aid all others in whatever they may need and can get from us. We have, for a very long time, developed in South Africa a nation of our own, friendly, prosperous, progressive. We hope that the rest of Africa will become likewise. Fortunately, even former opponents of the Republic, those who were in favour of a monarchy, are now prepared to give it full loyalty and cooperation. We are very happy to be a united people. Of course, there has been sensational journalism and conditioned reporting, which created the impression that there would be great difficulties ahead of us. Well, goodbye to you all. All that I can say is our opponents who wanted us out of the Commonwealth have won their wish, but they've lost their cause.
Flags of Commonwealth nations flew over Marlborough House. It was the start of the Commonwealth Conference, and Mr. Wilson prepared to face demands for stronger action over Rhodesia. African representatives, including Mr. Kapepwe, Zambia's foreign minister, and Uganda President Milton Obote, strong supporters of the pressure group, prepared to hear Mr. Wilson's statement. The conference had already paid silent tribute to Sir Abubakar Tafawa Balewa, Nigerian premier, killed in the January revolt, and was settling down for what has been described as the showdown talks. Then came the shock news. Dr. Hendrik Verwoerd, South African Premier, had been assassinated. At South Africa House in London, people gathered. The man they called the chief architect of apartheid was dead, stabbed to death as he sat in Parliament. White and coloured alike deplored the bloody violence. From all over the world, messages of sympathy and regret were sent to the bereaved nation, which had lost its leader 2 days before his 65th birthday. In Rhodesia, Mr. Smith adjourned Parliament as a mark of respect. Though forceful in his policies, Verwoerd was a retiring man who seldom attended public functions. Many said he was living on borrowed time.
Oh, fallen at length, that tower of strength, which stood foursquare to all the winds that blew.
Regard this man, called upon to give direction to his land in a world where in a few brief years the history of centuries is being rewritten.
Only when upheld by the blessing of the Almighty and the confidence of his people can a leader give of his best, physically and spiritually, every moment of his life. In this spirit, I dedicate myself to my country, South Africa.
These were the words with which HF Verwoerd, on September the 3rd, 1958, accepted office as the 6th Prime Minister of South Africa. But see him first as Minister of Bantu Affairs, the architect of a South Africa where together, white and non-white, could each build their own future. The man who gave substance to the vision of separate freedoms for the different peoples within our national borders.
But it is not only the white man in South Africa who claims as an inalienable right that his nation must be permitted to survive and to retain its own distinctive identity, its own culture and institutions. The black man is equally intent upon safeguarding the national heritages of each of his different nations. The South African government has, in the light of all this, chosen the only alternative, namely the self-realization to the utmost extent possible for each group.
A city that only hours before had been stunned by the assassination of Premier Verwoerd was remarkably calm. While newspapers blazed headlines of the murder news, people in the metropolis went about their normal business. But as they looked at press pictures of their dead leader, uppermost in their thoughts was the question, who will be the next Prime Minister? At the Groot Schuur, the Prime Minister's residence, all was silent, for at this moment in Pretoria, Dr. Verwoerd, the man who gave meaning to the word apartheid, was going to his last resting place. Even as Mrs. Verwoerd arrived at Union Buildings for the funeral service, it was already clear in the minds of many that the dead Premier's successor would be John Vorster. Like the man here being mourned, the new Premier believes in the doctrine of apartheid.